Many of us today were born before the creation of mobile telephones, so we still had to run across town with a written message from our mom and take it to Aunt Judy, who lived in the big blue house on the corner near the church. That was called being social, as it caused us to dash madly by various places of commerce and some places where people lived. When those people would see us, they would say, "There goes Aunt Judy's sister's boy. He's social carrying the missives," as we don't as of yet figured out how to create a mobile telephone. They also pre-mobile telephone would make us sit in a semicircle and slowly say everything we know. Tonight join us as we harken back to those days of being social and saying things we know about. A little bit at least. My name's Kyle and I live in Virginia. Where do you live? Episode 82 of Jabber Jawn. The license plates have been spotted.
Three little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. One frog said to the other frog, "Well, you better go get her." Two little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. Last little frog, he sat and thought, good thing they can swim. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn. Three little frogs sitting on a log. One burst into a grin. One frog said to the other frog, "Wonder what's got into him." Two little frogs sitting on a log. One laughed until he is red. Last little frog, he sat and thought, must have been something I said. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn. But hey, it's an upgrade now. And we are live. Welcome to Jabber Jawn. I'm Nathan Moore.
I'm Steve Moore.
Oh, was he? Do we have to redo that?
Good. I'll do better.
Hopefully the battery's working. Hey, welcome to Jabber Jawn. I'm Nathan Moore.
Hi, I'm Kyle Hall.
I'm Steve Moore.
Good to see everybody. We start each show with an arriving song and end each show with a leaving song. So today's arriving song, I still have these, some of my original band, the Amusement fans that have been listening to my nightly practices, and they keep digging up these old songs I've forgotten all about and asking me to play them. And I made a pledge that I would play every song that I wrote that anybody asked for at least once, and then we decide whether it goes into my pocket or back to the bottom of the ocean. So Abe drug this one up from the bottom of the ocean the other night, and I learned it and I started playing on slide guitar, and I've been enjoying it. It's a song called "Innocent Again," and it was on the Amusement record "Sweet Things." But the version that's on the record is this crazy, really aggressive rock and roll song. But then later in the Amusement years, we started doing this spacey version. And this one's sort of inspired by both. I sort of Frankenstein the two versions together. And so now it's a new song called "Innocent Again." Once I flew in wonder, I was a naked little lad. Then she said, "You're getting warmer," than I had fire on my hands. Oh, but that was Virginia. That was way back when. Oh, it's good to be innocent again. I was hardened by the roads, I was softened by the miles, I was ruined by the judgment, I was lifted by the trials. Now I got my eyes on my heart and a grin on my chin. Oh, it's good to be innocent again. Hold fast through the spring's grass, faster, faster, faster yet, older, slower, soaking it in. I, as a child, with crazy hair and little hands, reaching into magic streams I did once understand. All I'm finding out about the places that I've been. Oh, it's good to be innocent again. 'Cause slowly I got angry and scared of the sun. So I learned to cut the aces. I can show two cards as one, but now the carnival's left town. The field returned to win. Oh, it's good to be innocent again. Going fast through the spring's grass, and faster, faster, faster yet, older, slower, soaking it in.
Wow.
It's funny, huh?
And that's real interesting. That song that sounds like you could have written it more recently than that. Doesn't sound like a song you wrote when you were that young.
I know, right?
That's
I
pretty
probably
interesting.
was 26 or 27, I guess, when I wrote
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The song itself is Innocent Again, which is sort of a nice little meta
Oh yeah.
thing going on. The song itself is like feeling it. I can relate.
Yeah, I can relate.
Especially, I mean, when I listened to the original version, the spacey one from the later years where I was singing it, it's unlistenable. It's, and I was doing this the original version had that pulled fast through the spring's grass and faster and faster and faster yet, older and slower. The spacey version that we did later that I found online, I'm just like, I want to be pulled fast through the spring's grass. It's stupid. I mean, it's just like, it betrays the original inspiration of the song. It abandons half the words. Don't know what I was thinking, why I thought that was cool at the time, but the minute I heard it, I was like, oh my God, just eyes rolling into the back of my head. So like the song on so many levels is just like, finally, after all these years, I'm being sung as intended.
Wow.
Oh, the version on Sweet Things, Amy sings, and it's completely different. It's like, dang, 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 dang. And that's a cool version. But it's a fast
different.
rock and roll, very,
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah.
But there are so many of these old songs that are coming back that are just so thankful they get another shot at the game. because they can actually get their bat on the ball now. Back then, they didn't even know why they were invited to the show, because that that young voice and energy I had was just like, it was very creative, very inspired, and very passionate. And I love all those things, and I love that energy created all these tunes, but it could not perform them with the delicacy and respect they deserved. I feel like a lot of these songs are really excited about what I'm up to these days, of just trying to serve them in a respectful, more mature way, with a voice that isn't me trying to be Tom Waits. Which is a little much.
So when you say innocent again, at that time in your life when you said that, how were you arriving at that place?
It was probably through the use of psychedelic drugs, if I'm being honest.
That would be one
Something
way to get there.
Yeah, that because one thing that was always interesting about them is how you would play like a child again. You could literally sit in a sandbox and feel the exact same wonder and joy at building a little castle out of the sand, or just feeling the sand in your hands. You know, that playfulness and that sense of awe and wonder, and just being so easily entertained by the magic of existing.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. I was thinking along the lines of being older when you say that it involves something that how would I say it? I would say forgiving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that you can be that young to do that. So I was wondering where you were getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the things that when I hear that phrase, innocent again, I think we have trouble forgiving ourselves, and it builds up over our life. And when you sing it now, you might feel some of that of where.
Oh, I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah.
And that's some of the energy I can bring to that song now.
That energy of, because that's a great message. I think we all need to learn it. We all have to give each other the idea that we can change and we can be innocent again.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to forget. But the hardest part for a lot of us is we know we're not. But that's part of growing up and part of learning, and part of being a human being is to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And so forgive yourself for them.
And it's so much easier said than done.
Oh, of course.
And you might even think you did, but then still be haunted.
Oh, yeah.
Still.
I mean, and so on a certain level, you probably will be.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea that you can consciously every day think that way, that, you know, I made those mistakes, but that's not who I am now,
Mm-hmm.
is really important and true.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you're lying to yourself.
I've wanted to write a song for a while now, but I've never quite found a way to express it. But the idea that, because a lot of times when you finally come to terms with some wrong that you've done, or something that feels unforgivable, and you're hit with that shame, that shame can be so overwhelming and debilitating and just crippling. And and the ironic thing, in a way, is that when a person gets hit with that shame, that's actually the moment where they're stepping into the possibility of redemption. It's actually it's a horrifying moment, but it's actually a very promising moment, because you're facing it now, and you can actually get through it. Whereas before, you weren't there. So I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, the moment you feel that shame is like the moment that you can find salvation. That's the moment that you can change. That's the dime you can turn on, where it feels like you've hit the end. When you suddenly turn and face that shame, you're like, oh, now it's over. But no, that's the beginning. or should be the story.
Could be.
But it's an easy thing to not, because you feel like you've turned towards the darkness, but you've actually turned towards the light the moment the shame really hits.
True.
Does that make any sense? It does? Good. But boy, I wish there was a step-by-step guide somewhere to how to forgive yourself.
Yeah. Well, it takes work.
What's the work?
Well, the first step is facing it and trying to recognize it and just understand. That's why I think a lot of times you need to be a little older to get a perspective of seeing how things are. Because in the moment, in the time that you were doing those things that you're ashamed of, that was who you were, and you have to be responsible for that. We're not saying don't claim responsibility. We're just saying that acknowledge it, say you've learned from it, and move on into another world. You can't just settle for who you were when you were 25.
Right.
Although I'd like to have his liver back.
Right. What do you think, Kyle? You're quiet today.
I know, I'm tired.
Are you?
Long day yesterday. Went to Wintergreen for a little insurance getaway.
Insurance getaway.
Yeah.
How many people went?
I went with two people from work. Well, there was maybe like hundreds of people there.
There were hundreds of people there.
Yeah.
Oh, so it wasn't just you and
No.
a couple
It was like
women.
it was a couple.
That's what the image I got was you were taking an insurance break and you and a couple women went up to Wintergreen. And I got an image of you and two beautiful women in a hot tub.
There's
Did
no
I
hot
just
tub.
make that up?
There was two beautiful women, but there was no hot tub.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, good news here. The chat is working, by the way. So I do see everybody. Hey, Steve, Cuz. Hey, Cuz. Joe,
What up,
welcome to the
cuz?
show. Renee, welcome to the show. Or Rennie. Ben. Guy. Guy says, sage advice there, Steve. Joe Warren says, we are not the worst thing we have ever done. That is something that probably horrifies almost every human being on the planet. The idea that they would be summed up by their worst moment, that would be the definition of them, is probably a horrifying notion to every single person, unless you're young. That's that other side of it, because when you go even younger, then there's none of these considerations, that actual innocence.
Yeah. Luckily, I remember those days.
It's a good source. Yeah, the psychedelic drugs was one possible source of that. There's forgiving yourself is another possible version of that, and then there's the love of someone else.
Ooh.
Can also be the source of that return to innocence.
There you go. That's well thought out. I like
Yeah.
that.
I just want to take this moment to say I love you all.
Thank you.
Well,
I
that'll,
love you too.
that'll sell a few more records, I reckon.
Thank you, because those psychedelic drugs you gave us when we got here really,
They're just starting to kick in.
that really made us feel close tonight.
Well, if you might notice a set change. It might look squeaky clean down here. That's because, it's mild compared to what other people are dealing with out there, but there's been a constant stream of water into this basement for the last week, and it really hit its high point on Friday night, and it was a little bit of a miracle. I sent y'all a video in the text message, and that I guess you know where it was, but this rock wall back here is actually pretty peaceful when you zoomed in on it and forgot where you were. It was like just a little babbling brook trickling down these rocks here, a little natural waterfall in the basement. But it became there's a hole right behind this chair, and water just started coming out of there on Friday, and it. Even after the rain stopped for hours, it was just like an eternal spring had sprung down here. It was just it was amazing. And I'm afraid to stop up the hole because water is going to go somewhere.
Right.
And I'm afraid that, I mean, at least I see that and I can put a shop vac on it and deal with it. I'm afraid if I put cement in the hole and really plug it up, it's just going to start coming out from behind the wall or somewhere worse. There was one time where there was a straight jet of water coming out of one of the holes in the cement wall here. It was just like it was peeing on the floor. It was coming out about 3 feet from the wall in a straight little squirt.
Oh my God.
And it was just.
You think of how much water that is, and you're just on one little hill, and these people up in the mountains.
I can't picture
the runoff was just horrible.
I can't picture even here trying to imagine where this water table is that fills up and then sort of starts coming in through the basement. We're on a hill going up here. I know it's filling and it gets to a certain point and it starts coming in here. But when I try to picture it in my mind and imagine what that water table looks like, it's really hard. It's hard to picture all of that, like the well out at Joe's house or the well at Frank's mill. It's like, what's going on down there underground? There's big pockets of water. There's like an ocean under there. It's got to be a lot of water down underground. A lot of clean water. It's weird.
Well, there wasn't until a couple of weeks ago.
But like
we were in a drought.
wells and stuff. I just think that's really fascinating.
Yeah, and
like,
that's what I'm saying. That well, under drought conditions, will dry up. So it was probably close to. I mean, I have no idea, but we were in a pretty severe drought before this. So.
Did you ever run out of water at Trinity Point?
We had threats.
Wow.
Where
How
we
about
had
Frank's Mill? It's so close to the river there.
Well, that's so funny. We had to go at 200 feet down because you had to get underneath that first layer of rocks. So we were right on the river, but you can't tap into the river, obviously. You got to get groundwater to get, to make it sure it's not bacteria laden. So, you had to go down through the rocks to get to another strata that was saturated. And that's where your water table is.
It is so fascinating because everywhere that people settled, I mean, pretty much everywhere you see in any movie or historical piece, they had a well. So that meant, for the most part, like maybe there's a percentage of places where you couldn't go down far enough to find water, but for the most part, you could just go down and find water. That's weird. It's got to be like caves or something. It can't just be like water holding the crust of the earth up.
Some types of rock can hold water and others can't. So what you'll end up with is like a pipeline. Like you have a rock strata here that's impervious and another one, and this one is. So the water actually flows.
Like through gravel?
Yeah, like through gravel. And it's a similar analogy. You got sand, stone, which is just rock made of sand, and then you have gravel, and you have different things, but some of them hold more water than others. And then you do have caves and underground lakes and
underground
grottos.
Lakes. Come on.
We have a little town called Grottos.
What's that mean?
That's in a cave formation inside of a cave that's formed by water. I mean, a cave is formed by a river under the ground. Yeah, it's weird.
It is weird. Guy says, I own an artisan well with pristine water in the middle of the Salt Lake Valley, 290 feet deep. That's just a lot to get your brain around. Then if you keep going, you reach molten lava. The magma at the Earth's core. It's just hard to fathom all that stuff going on down there underground. I'll tell you what. Maybe. Go ahead.
I like the way the conversation is. We are not the worst thing that we've ever done. I own an artesian well with pristine. It's like,
welcome to Jabber.
Is that the worst thing you've ever done? Thanks for admitting that.
Finally fessed up. I know he feels better.
It's just talk it out. Just talk it out. Find some ear to bend. Maybe you can explain to me how, why does metal hold heat better than wood?
Metal
work?
does not hold heat. Metal conducts heat.
Oh, So explain that to me.
Well,
what's the difference between holding and conducting?
If I grab a piece of copper and you're holding on to it, and I light it, or I hold it, I'm just making it vibrate. That's heat. Heat is vibration. So it's metals are just they're exactly alike. So they will, like copper, every copper will vibrate, and it'll vibrate the one next to it. And so it's a real nice chain of energy moving through there. And that's all that heating is.
But wood won't do that.
Wood's a non-conductor because it's got a lot of space in between it, where it's like a vacuum and it doesn't get transmitted. Whereas a metal, the particles are so packed together and they're so much alike, and they are positive. They have a positive ion because they're metals, so the electrons can. So that's why they're good conductors of electricity and heat. But it's all based on the vibration of the particles.
And how close the molecules or atoms are together?
Yeah, because they're all connected. They have metallic bonds. So they're already uniquely, so when you vibrate one, you're going to vibrate the next one, and that's what causes the conduction of the heat.
So what's heat in space?
Well, there is no heat in space if there is no matter. It travels as a wavelength through space, but unless it hits something or absorbs or loses energy, it'll stay the same.
So we would be that matter, right? So if a wave of heat hits us,
we would vibrate. Our molecules would vibrate. If they vibrate enough, it kills us.
How about that? So how does that relate to calories?
The questions of the lifetime. I mean,
a food calorie is 1,000 little calories, by the way. But a food calorie is how much energy is given off when you eat something. In other words, how much energy your body can make from that food. So they count up that and use a heat unit for that. So they're measuring the heat that would be given off if you burn it. So that's what they do when they test something. They burn it and see how much heat it gives off.
Wait a minute. So a calorie as a measure of what?
How much heat is released how much energy you get from the food you eat. It's a unit of heat measurement, of heat capacity, or how much. So when you say,
isn't that weird?
You say 1,500 calories is what I'm eating, they're saying that the food you eat will give you that many calories. Theoretically, if your body uses 1,500 and you eat 1,500, you don't gain any weight. If you eat 1,600, you gain a little bit. So that's how diets work.
Now, how do you figure out how much your body?
Well, you measure your weight and age and your physical activity, and all these Fitbits and things will tell you how many calories you're supposed to.
Good
You
grief.
know,
so
the
you're
average
figuring all
person
this stuff
eats
out.
about 2,000 calories a day, and you know, if you go on a diet, you count your calories. And
And they actually discover the amount of calories by like burning a Cheeto and seeing.
yeah, exactly. When it says how many calories you get, they've actually burned it in a controlled setting and measured the heat.
That'd be a fun gig.
Wait a minute. So this, I mean, just to use a Cheeto. So they will. This is simplifying it, of course, but they'll burn a Cheeto, and depending on how hot it burns, they can determine.
Well, they measure how much, for instance, you could put it in a container of water, surrounded by water, and when it burns, that heat's given off and will heat the water. So they've done enough measurements that the amount of, that the heat, the number of degrees it goes up, they have a formula and they plug it in.
So if you have the flame in there in that vacuum, it's putting off a certain amount of heat. And then you put it to the Cheeto, and then that amount of heat increases. And
They can measure that with devices.
how about that?
And you can tell how much heat's given off.
What? I can't tell if that's science fiction
Are-
or.
I guess there's calories in all things, but even if it's inedible, a piece of paper has a caloric. You can burn it and it will produce that
Yeah, so
measurement.
you could talk about that. You could talk about the heat, the enthalpy of a system. Yeah, that's called, the heat is called enthalpy. If you're trying to impress somebody.
Always. Enthalpy.
Girl, you look infalfy.
Yeah, I don't know who makes
How would you
these.
use enthalpy in a sentence?
Well, you know, on a, like today when I went out on the porch, the enthalpy was noticeably less than or more than yesterday when it rained all day. So there's a lot more heat in the room outside. So I'd say the enthalpy was increased for the day. But I would never say that because that's only used in terms of laboratory stuff. And if you said it outside of that, you'd just be an asshole. Which is a technical term for that, but I don't use it.
Infalfy.
So,
Man.
how many calories do you think are in this tissue here?
Oh, I'd say about 3,000.
And so,
So don't eat that all in one day.
so if
Are
I
you gonna
eat, if
eat-
I eat all of this, want some?
What the hell are you doing?
What's in it?
Just tissue.
Did you blow your nose or something in it though?
Oh my gosh. What is wrong with you? Oh my gosh. Oh my God, son.
You melted it. Somehow you.
Rex, call 911.
He's going through alfalfa right now.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Oh my. Oh!
Do you have alfalfa for real?
Oh.
This is paper straw.
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna pull up any food, am I?
That's impossible.
And this, children, is how we remove a tooth.
Oh my God. Look at that.
Are you sitting on it? Is it coming completely
Oh my-
through you?
God.
It's like trying to catch a fish.
Oh my. This is the craziest thing I've ever seen
This
in my whole
is the
life.
biggest tapeworm I've ever seen.
Oh.
Oh my
Oh,
God!
God. Yeah.
What in the world?
What in the world?
Y'all would not believe the stench coming off this
All
damn
I-
thing.
I think there's a lot more calories than what it said on the
Man.
packaging of that Kleenex
my
right there.
gosh.
There's a lot more calories in there than it said.
I think we burned up a lot of calories just pulling it out of you. What in the
That is
world?
the
Man.
craziest thing I've ever seen in my
That was
life.
pretty crazy. feel a lot better now, though. I tell you what. All right.
You ready for dinner now?
Woo! Innocent again. Oh yeah, good bowel movement. That was the other one I wanted to add to the list.
Man.
What list was that now? I've got a couple of
Ways to get innocent again.
Oh, ooh, ooh.
I hope y'all didn't miss that.
Lord have mercy.
I always thought it. I'm sure we've talked about this before because I've been eternally fascinated by the fact that on an energy level, how we get energy from things that were alive. Like that's pretty much, we can't live without consuming things that were alive because they had energy and we need their energy to have energy. But then it gets even weirder because at least up until like 20 or 30 years ago, the only way we could power anything was off using the remnants of things that were alive. Oil was the decomposed organic material of living things that we use to power our houses, our cars. But just that life-consuming life, we wouldn't be able to live if we didn't consume living things, right?
Well, you can take that a step further.
Please.
And say that the living things depend on the sun, so solar power.
Right, the sun is
the original source.
The original source
of our energy, unless you want.
Oh my goodness! You see what he's saying? It is kicking in.
Well,
but the sun's the original source
for the petroleum.
And us consuming living things, our cars consuming living things, our body consuming living things, is really consuming that power the sun originally supplied.
Yeah, if you think
to the
about
plants that grow,
yeah.
to the fruits we eat.
All the coal industry is based on
all that.
The sun of millions of years ago.
Wow.
There you go, folks.
I think we need to have somebody else drop in and give us their opinion. If we only had that ability.
Is he getting shy all of a sudden?
He did get shy. He hooked up his own camera, and now he's speechless.
Oh, no. Well, my mic is charging.
Oh, I gotcha.
But I got nothing right now.
No one's noticed my new shoes.
Oh, well, we've been talking about important things.
These shoes, I tell you what, if you tuned in last week, you probably saw
they were light brown.
They were, yeah.
Since the flood, they're green.
That's a magic trick. I changed my brown shoes from last week to these beautiful colors. I just decided that we needed a color boost here. It's the same. I just love the shoe so much. I bought it also in another color, and I love the idea that as far as clothes go, this is my shoe. I found my shoe after all these years. Collapsible heel. We've gone through this before, but for those that are new, this collapsible heel that you can just slip right into, and unlike every other all-terrain slipper that I've owned, I can wear these without socks and they don't get gross. I don't know why slippers are like that. Some of them have that fake fur or whatever, but they get sweaty and weird feeling and stinky. This material, whatever it is NASA must have invented this because it's unbelievable. And I just love the idea that, if I found the shirt that I love and bought all the colors or whatever, in a couple of years it might not fit anymore. As far as clothing goes, hats and shoes you can stock up on because they're probably going to fit you the rest of your life. Once you've hit a certain age, my foot is not going to change very much. Right. So in 10 years, I'm thinking about buying every color because I'd hate to they're going to stop making these. Lex and I were talking earlier, and he was like, man, there are some shoes from 10 years ago I wished I bought a few more pairs of because you can't find them anywhere in the world anymore, and I just love that shoe. So I'm not making that mistake.
Well, I do think we are moving into another era, though, that the idea of tying shoes has gone away.
That's true.
I mean, who's going to bend over and actually tie a knot in a
Right.
shoe?
And know how to tie the
Yeah,
daggone
well,
thing.
yeah, we don't teach that anymore. That and cursive are gone.
Right. How about ties?
Oh, that's been gone for years.
Right.
I had to show all my kids how to tie a tie when we went to prom.
Right. Right.
In other words, they hadn't worn one all that time.
Can you tie a tie?
I can tie the old,
Half Windsor.
like just a little one, but now like you see all the people with the real big ones and stuff, I would have no clue how
Yeah.
to tie that.
Half Windsor. What's a full Windsor?
It's bigger than the one I hadn't learned to do, but that's what they told me I was doing. I had one way of doing it, and I taught all my children that way. That's the way I learned.
I didn't know there were other ways of doing it.
No, I don't think. Well, there are, but they take a lot longer, a lot more
I
calories.
tried to learn how to tie a proper bow tie once. And it was just beyond me.
Yeah, should be. I don't like any of my children wearing a bow tie.
No, you don't like that
Nah,
way?
I never will. I'm not against people that wear one.
Right,
but,
just
I
not your
just not
progeny.
my style.
He's getting road rage again. Watch
Why did he get road rage?
He's cracking me up.
Although I think if you wear a bow tie, you don't get into as many road rages.
No, it doesn't. It's
They-
it's not effective.
They contradict each other.
Oh man, get back in the car, bow tie.
Why did he have road rage?
There was a sightseer or
Stalker
yeah, it was a. He said he was
going down that road here at the
detonating a
house. He was
bomb
going
on
about
shit.
3.1 miles per hour, and then he'd
At
stop
your house or our house?
at your house.
So we couldn't
He
get
was
a-
at the top of the hill, and he started going down the hill, and he just stopped every 15 feet.
You know, there was a big shooting near here the other day.
Oh no.
Guy was arrested for attempted. It sort of worked.
Well, wasn't
yeah,
related to that you were talking about a guy. That
That's
was,
a
is he
different
still
story.
around?
It's getting a little weird out there.
Well, it's been weird.
Yeah, there was a. Might have been I'm still piecing together the facts. Like first I saw it on Newtown, like, oh, were those gunshots? It sounded like an exchange of fire, like two guns. And then I saw a police report that one person was arrested for attempted homicide. I think like the police report made it sound like a drive-by shooting into a house. Into a house right by Thorn Rose, right here.
Wow.
Wow.
Ugh.
Yeah. Getting weird out there.
Yeah. Well, maybe that guy was a reporter. Maybe he was trying to get a backstory. The guy that we were following.
All right. He might have been looking for clues. So, a little investigative reporting.
I told him, he's like, why is he going so slow? I said, maybe it's looking to see where we broadcast from. He said, yeah, he's probably got an explosive strapped to his chest.
Oh, gosh. Pizza. Candygram for Mungo. Telegram. Catherine and I have long dreamt
Wanted
about
to
becoming
blow up
a private detective agency. I think that would be.
Starsky and Hutch, y'all should do it.
Were they private detectives?
I think they were just undercover cops.
Yeah, I think they were undercover cops.
Who?
Starsky and Hutch. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Cagney and Lacey out there.
Cagney and Lacey. They were cops too, though, right?
I guess Rockford Files was
We're
a
talking
detective.
Magnum.
Uh,
X-Files. No, they were FBI. Who were the famous private investigators?
Philip Marlowe,
Philip Marlowe,
Sam Spade.
Sam Spade, Magnum.
Oh, Heart to Heart. Weren't they just rich people that went out and solved crimes?
Heart to Heart. That was a good one.
That could be you too.
How
Heart
about
to Heart.
how about Moonlighting? What was that?
Ooh.
Was that
Bruce Willis? Yeah.
Bruce Willis?
What was he?
How about Remington Steele? Was that PI?
That was James Bond.
Pierce Brosnan?
God, what was one you just said?
Moonlighting?
Yeah, what was he?
What was he? Do you remember Moonlighting?
Yeah.
No, what was the one
Did
that?
he have hair then?
Who
yeah.
was the woman in Moonlight?
Sybil Shepherd,
Yeah.
maybe?
How about Beretta? Beretta was a bail bondsman, though, wasn't
I don't know. Bail bondsman?
he? Yeah, that he was just. Wasn't that what he was?
Beretta.
I never watched that one.
Now, whatever happened to him? Didn't he go to jail? Did he kill somebody?
He had a lot of problems.
Beretta did?
Yeah, Robert Blake,
I never
the
watched-
actor.
Oh, Robert Blake.
Yeah,
Did he murder somebody?
I don't know.
In real life, you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
He did something.
I think he got, yeah, I don't know what the story is, but he got into trouble. Yep.
Now, were you a fan of what's the music producer that killed that lady at his house? Wall of
Hartman?
Sound.
Phil Hartman? Oh.
Oh.
Oh, Phil Spector.
You a fan
Definitely.
of him?
I was before that.
That was weird. I had the weirdest thing. I think I had a life-changing event that happened today.
Today.
Yeah, I went to see my neighbor. I check on him. And he's not as able to get up as like he used to. So I go over and check on him when I walk sometimes. And I went in and was sitting with him. Well, he watches this TV station that Mom was watching all the time. And they have reruns of Gunsmoke and Andy and Mayberry. And it was, and I didn't know I got it.
that channel.
I didn't know I got that. I'd never seen that channel. I just assumed that I didn't get it. And I get, Xfinity, so I should get it. So today I went and looked for it.
And you found
And
it?
I found it 198. It's Me TV. And at
Oh, yeah, we get that on the antenna.
At 8 o'clock tonight, they've got 4 mashers back to back.
Every night, or
Well, I don't know. I just
you just
they
found
had,
it today?
They had Wagon Train, and they had Bonanza. They did a banana. I watched about 15 minutes of Banana.
Was that
Bonanza.
Landon's?
Michael
first?
Landon, Pernell Roberts, Dan Blocker, Lauren Green.
Green.
I saw all of them. for
Bonanza extravaganza.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I haven't ever gotten into that. The Andy and Mayberry, the living in that world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to go there until I'm in the nursing home.
You
But I
save it.
think I'm going to go there tonight.
Mm.
So you might not see me for a couple weeks, which has been true anyway. 'Cause
That's what happened to me when I discovered Gunsmoke a few months back.
yeah, that's what I
Started going down. I just couldn't even believe.
That's another way of getting innocent again.
Right.
Watching those old
Well, you
shows.
Number
know,
five,
that's
number 5.
beautiful. That's very true.
That's actually true. Right.
When I'm watching an Andy and Mayberry, you're in an innocent world.
Yeah.
And I would watch
And you're
it.
returning. Not only is it an innocent world, but you're returning to that youthful
Oh, yeah.
nostalgia. Of,
Yeah, at one time I was Opie.
Yep.
I really was. And, we all were. And can be innocent again and be Opie again.
Mm-hmm.
And damn, Barney Fife still make you laugh every time.
Right. God.
It is something to say about that, though, because, of the way the world was when a lot of these shows that are nostalgic to us were produced, it was a whole different vibe, whole different America, so to speak.
Oh, it's remarkable to go back and watch this. Just like I was talking about Easy Rider, how weird that was. But these older ones, like, Andy and Mayberry, they have a lesson every day, and they have a plot, and they're funny. They're
Right.
well written.
Well written. Yeah.
It's just real interesting.
Great acting.
Yeah, they have good writers and good acting.
I just couldn't believe the writing on Gunsmoke when I first started watching it. I was
Well,
just like,
there's-
oh my God. I was like trying to write it all down as a songwriter. It was like, this is a gold mine. I just struck a vein of gold because every other phrase coming out of these characters' mouths is just such a great euphemism or metaphor or
Right.
just way of saying things.
Plus, you'll see some of these character actors that are just great, and some famous
right, their first
actors when they were
appearance
young.
ever. Yeah, Gunsmoke was
Wanted Dead or Alive was famous for that.
I never watched that one.
Yeah, Steve McQueen.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh, he was ultra cool. Of course, he and Paladin, they brought in the anti-hero. They were just so cool.
Right. Why do they call it an anti-hero?
Well, they were that guy that wouldn't be the hero type. He wasn't the white hat. He'd come in slouching down, the Clint Eastwood thing where you're a cool guy, but you end up being a good guy. But
Right.
you're not the white hat coming in saving the world. You're kind of like too cool.
Was James Dean like an
Oh, yeah.
anti-hero?
Yeah, except that he didn't even try to be a hero a lot of
Right.
times.
Right.
He was just a cool guy. But yeah.
But an anti-hero is
Well-
a hero, but sort of comes from the other side of the status quo.
Well,
or
think
something.
about Paladin, Have Gun Will
See, I never
Travel.
really watched.
Oh
that.
my God, you ought to get into that. Those were great shows.
What's it called?
Paladin.
Paladin. Well, it was Have Gun Will Travel. Is the name of the show. And Richard Boone was the actor that played Paladin, and he was a San Francisco gambler who took on private affairs and went out and took care of business for people. So he was a hitman sometimes, but he always outdrew the guy in the beginning of the show, and
It's a Western.
you could tell he was an anti-hero because at the beginning of the show he'd draw and he'd shoot the guy, and the guy'd start to fall and he'd shoot him 5 more times
On the opening credits.
on the opening credit.
Oh my goodness.
And that was Paladin. And he wore black hat, and he was a gambler, and he'd walk into town and he looked like a fancy Dan, but no, you didn't mess with him.
Now, why am I thinking of Jack Palance or Jack Palance? Was he in it?
He was a movie star, and he played those hard roles, but I don't know that he had a TV show. But Paladin was he was just a gambling man.
It's funny. The signature on my emails for years is Nathan Moore. Have guitar, will travel. But sure, a lot of people were thinking I knew more about that than I did. I always knew that phrase, but I don't really know the show.
I wouldn't miss it. It was Friday nights. I think I wouldn't miss a wagon train and Have Gun Will Travel.
What was Wagon Train?
Wagon Train was the beginning of Rowdy Yates, which was the beginning of Clint Eastwood's career.
Oh, really?
He was he had Ward Bond was the trail master. So it was a wagon train, and they'd fight Indians or bad guys or whatever they had to fight that week, or each other. There'd be a bad guy on the wagon train, and there's always, but that was Rowdy Yates was like the cowhand.
Sounds like a wrestler.
Yeah, he was real, that long, thin body and real hard, but young, so young. Really good-looking young man. That was his first job, and he did that for years. So he was Rowdy Yates for years, and then he started doing the spaghetti westerns and everything, and took off as an actor. But boy,
Now, why do you think Westerns were so popular back then?
partly about what we're talking about. They go back to another time, a simpler time, and you could solve things with a gun and go on home.
Now you try to do it, they arrest you.
Now you got to go.
It might have been a good old-fashioned showdown trying to happen out
Oh,
there.
no, just two guys.
Newtown.
You're right. Right. It's not as cool as it used to be.
No, you just can't do it like that. no more.
Well, they're shooting and running. Shooting from a moving car is not the same as standing out in front, gunning each other. Of course, back then they were sneaky too. So.
But it's funny, talking to people of your age, like my dad, just other people, like the Westerns, that's like that was the thing.
It was a whole thing. Everything he just named was it was a
Yeah, but-
huge genre for a long time. I mean,
I love all those movies. Even now, even the modern Western movies.
Right.
it was. I could see how, like, because a lot of that was like the birth of film and stuff too, and it became a genre, and you could just sort of do it. Just get some horses and go out to the middle of an empty prairie and pretend like you're in old Western times or whatever. It's not a hard movie to make, but
So is there like a Western on every night?
Oh yeah, I'm sure that they have different ones. I don't know what the schedule is. I'll let you know because I'm going to be home watching it.
I'm curious about Kevin Costner's latest movie, the one he left Yellowstone to make, is now available streaming. I haven't seen it yet, but
Yeah, sounds like it'd be pretty good.
curious about that.
That's a Western?
Mm-hmm.
What's it on? Can you get that on
I think it's on
Netflix?
HBO.
HBO.
You probably do it on demand with your Xfinity.
I thought Yellowstone was hugely popular.
Yellowstone is hugely popular.
So wasn't he one of the main
But I guess
people?
he'd done it for several seasons and had this dream of making this movie and couldn't do both. And it was pretty controversial. And then there was a lot of pressure on whether the movie was good enough to leave such a popular. Yellowstone was good. You know what we've gotten into is The Chosen. That's on Netflix. You could watch that. It's the story of Jesus.
Really?
But it's very well done. We had it recommended to us early on. We were a little skeptical, because it can be done in so many different ways. But this one is
I'll check it out.
it's very enjoyable, and very, I'd say it'll inspiring. Has a
Cool.
nice energy to it.
Well, good.
A little
I like that.
transformative.
It's casted very well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little modernism to it, just but
To make it accessible.
yeah, but just still tells a good story in the way the certain characters that you're familiar with from the Bible, the way they're depicted in their characters, it's interesting and I think very well done. They took a great approach with. I think it was very well casted and written, even the other characters. So, highly recommended show. Yeah,
Cool.
I agree.
I'll check it out.
Definitely stick with it for the first couple episodes are pretty slow or whatever, and but it eventually becomes a tension that's well relieved, because it's just sort of really painting the picture of the world that Jesus enters into, and then when he comes, you're just like, all right, here we go, let's do this. But for the first couple episodes, until he shows up, it's a little, you're a little bit like, all right.
This ain't no
It doesn't start
Western.
with a bang. They're patient with it, but it ends up being really effective.
Who plays Jesus? Somebody that I would know.
Nobody you would know, but you would recognize him now. That must be such a weird role to play, because I guarantee you, he's getting approached in life by. I'm sure people are struggle with his presence if they're fans of the show, especially if they're devout people, to be in the presence of. It's the guy that plays Jesus, but people are already pretty weird about celebrity like that.
Right.
You have people that play villains in a movie that people freak out about in public, and it's like, how could you do that? It's like it's a character I'm playing. It's hard to keep the world separated sometimes. But I bet his life in good and bad ways is profoundly changed by that being the role that he's known for. It's always curious to see when someone plays a character so well, if they can continue, if they're sometimes that's the death of your acting career, because no one, for the rest of his days, he might just be Jesus, and like, sorry, like, we don't need Jesus in this movie. You know?
Right.
They can always resurrect his career though later.
I see what you did there.
But I'm yeah. Yeah, you might have to die and be reborn to come back as something else. But it is fun to see actors overcome that obstacle to redefine themselves.
I have no idea why we're talking. I do know why we're talking about Jesus, but while you were talking about it, for some reason, the image of Charles Bronson and all his movies just came to mind. I'm not sure how Jesus and Charles Bronson came together, but I guess because he was like a godlike figure coming down to take revenge on people that had done him wrong in all those movies.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever like those movies? The old Charles Bronson, Rough 'Em Up.
Well,
That wouldn't be up Dad's alley. Well, he was a Western guy before he
Yeah,
was
he did a
Death
lot. He
Wish
did a lot
1,
of
2,
hard
3,
roles.
Death
4,
Wish, that's
5.
what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a tough guy.
Mm-hmm.
I could handle that. It's just gratuitous violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was- his was always in the line of being a cool guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now that I'm saying, I see like black and white Charles Bronson in cowboy movies. I feel like he might even been in Gunsmoke. Is that possible? That's possible, right?
Oh, I'm sure he
Trying to think
played.
of his
He played a
age.
lot of those roles back then.
Mm-hmm.
He was a classic bad guy. He was in the Jack Palance, that same role of the tough, hard-looking man,
Mm-hmm.
Marlboro man.
I'll tell you a good dream that I had. I have some great dreams that are just sitting on the shelf waiting for the time. But one of them is, and I guess it would be almost like a Western, but I have a movie that I want to make. And I want to make it using all Stanton talent. I want Stanton musicians to do the soundtrack. I want Stanton people to do the acting and everything. And the story takes place in Stanton. I learned about this from Charles Culberson. You ever read any of his books?
Oh yeah, well, he used to have an article in the Stanton
We
paper.
should get him in here. Someday I do think we could do a heck of a job just having guests in here and
Oh,
all
yeah.
three of us picking their brains or their
Well,
experience.
I think we're about finished with us.
Right.
I know I felt
Come
done.
full circle.
I felt like I've been done for about 3 months.
But this guy is a local historian, and he's written several books, and it's all Stanton history. But he's like Ken Burns or something. He really tells a good story. He doesn't just... Have you ever read any of his stuff? Because he doesn't just tell you the facts. He really tells it in story form. He puts you there
Good
and
for him.
uses language really great.
I'd like to borrow one
But-
of his books. From
Oh, we
him.
got a couple of them. And, but he told me this story that I didn't know about. But this guy, John Kennedy, that was his name, back in the day, was arrested for trying to derail a train. They were gonna derail a train and then rob everybody, like kill everybody on the train basically, and then go on the train and steal all their stuff. He got arrested for it and was set to hang just right downtown Stanton here. Oh, it did seem to flash for a second. I think we're good though. But he was set to be hung right downtown Stanton. And the night before, is it the camera?
Might be getting hot.
Luckily we have the fan over there for it. You should still be able to hear my voice even if you lose the picture for a second. But he writes this poem the night before he's set to be hung. Roses are red, violets are pink. Will I hang? No, I think. And that night he escaped using the scaffolding that they had erected to hang the noose. He got out of his jail cell and used that scaffolding to get over the wall and escape. And I don't think they ever found him. But he, there's so much poetry there. Like the thing they're using to kill him, the scaffolding they built to hang the noose, was his way out. So he used that to escape. And there's a whole long story about it. Like apparently, an older woman whose husband had died working for the railroad or something, like talked him into it, and she had a dim-witted son, and they were sort of friends, and then the mother sort of over drinks and stuff got them all riled up, and they came up with this plan to derail the train.
Wow.
But that all happened here in Stanton, and I feel like you could make a great movie about it, and it would be so fun just to to get like Alan Moyer in the film department at Mary Baldwin, get maybe the Shakespeare actors involved, do all local talent creating the wardrobes, and just like a community created movie about a story like that from our actual Stanton history.
Man,
Isn't that a fun idea?
that is a good idea.
We got all, when we first read that story, Catherine and I tried to like write a screenplay in a screenplay format and stuff like that. We were all about it for a little while, but it's still once a year I'm like, oh, we got to make that movie. I got a whole Rolodex full of these ideas though. That's the problem.
And what time period was this? Like the 1800s?
It would have been early 1900s. That's a great question. Do you remember, Kethra, when that was? There were trains, but we were hanging people right down south.
When was the last time they hung
That's
somebody
probably
down
about
there?
83. I don't think we hung anybody after 83.
That's 1983.
Yeah.
The South is, slow. As far as this, I'm sure this is more than just the South, but talk about being slow and how times change. And tell me if this is true for you. When I was in elementary school, in the principal's office, there was a famous paddle. It had a name.
Yeah.
It had notches on it. It might have had signatures on it. I forget.
Blood on it.
And blood on it, dried blood. Do you have any
remember
memory of anything like that? Famous paddle that you don't want to get that. I can't remember if I ever. I know I got threatened with it, but I'm not sure if I ever got struck by it. Our camera is overheating out there. Sorry about that, folks.
Something is.
Didn't you tell a story that you were marching somebody down to the principal's office and you dropped him off at the music room?
Yeah, he was tapping. It was the first day of class, and I was trying to give my opening lecture, and one of my now friends was in the back tapping with the pencils, and I asked him at some point to stop, and then he stopped for a while, and he picked it up and started doing it again. So I just asked him to meet me at the door, and I just said, we got to go somewhere, and I just left my class, which I shouldn't have done, and took him down to the band department and told him that's where he belonged.
You just dropped him off.
I dropped him off.
I wonder what happened after that.
He came back after school, and we talked about it.
On his own volition,
Oh,
or
that
did you
was
tell
nice
him?
of him.
I think he just came back to find out what he should do. Like, should he ever come back into my class? And I think we got along after that.
Oh,
I wasn't mad at him. I didn't have any road rage or anything. I just didn't want to fool with him.
Where did you go to elementary school?
Started off at what was called Northside, the one over by the new, I don't know what it's called now, Thomas or something. But then I went up on the hill there, by, what was that one built up in the woods?
John Lewis.
No.
What are you talking about? The elementary school?
Yeah, up there in the middle of nowhere, past Jiffy Mart.
Oh,
What was that called? That's the thing. It's not even a school anymore.
I know what you're talking about. I can't think
Thomas
of it.
Dixon.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
That was like we were the
Might
first
want to just cut
people
the
to go.
camera off for a minute, let it cool down. It is acting weird, huh?
We were the first. I started 4th grade or 5th, I think 5th and 6th grade there.
Did they have a paddle?
Oh my God, the school was so new. They probably had like probably like an electric thing to shock you or something. Like
Cattle prod.
Where's the old paddle? No, this is a new school. We've updated.
Smooth.
They couldn't tell it was my hand.
You have no memories of a paddle?
No, I don't remember even. I don't think I even ever saw the whole school. I think I was in 2 classrooms. I don't remember ever even walking around the whole place. I don't remember what they had lunch.
Isn't that
in
funny
there.
though? Just in my lifetime, like when I was a kid, there was a famous paddle in the principal's office.
Oh, yeah.
That was used on students that were unruly.
Definitely.
If you didn't respond to the fear of it, well, then you're gonna have to get a taste of it.
Yep.
Weren't Catholic schools famous for that? The nuns crashing your hands,
Smacking your fingers
with,
with
a ruler or something.
smack.
Man, I wonder what happened if you hit a kid now. Man, that'd be
That would
hell to
be on
pay.
CNN.
I know. I just found out, for any of y'all that are on the run from the law, that if you're in a hotel room and the police come and ask if you're there, you can't, like the hotel can't tell them where you are. They can't admit that you're staying there. Because we're having a...
That run into you. You have an issue with that this weekend?
I was at work and saw somebody was being sued, and I was like, "What are they being sued for?" The police had gone to this hotel and asked if this dude was in the room. They said yes, and so he's suing them because you have the right to privacy when you're the hotel room, which I guess is the same. Like you can't call a hotel and say, "Hey, is Nathan staying there?" They're not going, supposedly not supposed to tell you.
Right.
But they didn't even go in and get him. They just sat in the police car and knew he was in there. So when he came out, they arrested him. So he's suing them for breaking the law, telling the police he was there.
Huh.
I was like, man, so now if you're like a bad guy, you just go get a hotel room, nobody can do anything to you. I guess you have to come out eventually.
I always love that, like, search warrant thing or whatever. It's like vampires. That the old thing about vampires is they have to be invited into the home. They can't enter a home unless they're invited.
I never knew that.
And police are sort of like that, you know, like if they come and they knock on your door and you don't answer, they can't just bust in the door.
Except for one full day of rage, and then they'll learn.
Oh, right. I saw that. Yeah.
Man, can you imagine?
The Purge. Yeah, I can imagine. They made movies about it.
Did you ever see those movies?
Mm-hmm. But then it became a franchise, and that's weird. No, there's like The Purge.
People couldn't get enough.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. Like, I can see like the first movie being made. It's like, all right, it's a premise, but to become a franchise is way more disturbing than the original movie being made.
Now, there was a TV show that came out, God, it must have been like 10 years ago or something. It was Kevin Bacon, and he ended up in this city that didn't exist, or like this weird city. Did anybody ever see that? It doesn't look like it from your... Like he was driving at night, and then he wakes up, and he's in this other world type thing.
And it was a TV show?
And everybody knew he didn't belong, but he was trying to fit in. Every time he'd ask questions, they were like, "Oh, he must be an outsider."
I'm intrigued.
Oh, it was so good.
It was so good?
Quantum Leap? Was it some kind of time?
And then it ended up, towards the end, they were like shooting people out in like these space... I can't remember. Why did I bring that up?
Hey, Siri.
If anybody knows that show, tell me so I can watch it again.
What TV show was Kevin Bacon a part of? Come on. Footloose. That's not a TV show. Great movie, though.
Or was it Kevin Bacon? I think it was. Or maybe Kevin Bacon was in the one where it took place in Richmond. Oh, man.
Took place in Richmond?
Yeah.
Man.
God, my memories.
I'm looking for a new show.
Did you ever
I'll go to the IMDb database.
Did you ever get through all the Gunsmoke? Or you just got overloaded?
Yeah, I got overloaded.
Like a baked potato.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to watching MASH.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Mashers. I haven't seen any of those in a long time.
I used to watch that religiously. I'm sure I've seen every single episode of it. I remember when the grand finale of that was the most watched TV show of all time.
Oh,
The
yeah.
whole world. That was one thing that was sort of cool before the internet and only having a few channels on TV, is that there were those moments, and it was all live, so you couldn't just tape or watch it later. And I feel like there's something profound about the collective consciousness all engaging in that moment in real time. To know that there's millions of people all around the world watching that episode of MASH all at the same time together. There's a certain profound aspect to that collective engagement that is, I mean, we still have it with sports, which is cool. Like it's one of the last harbingers of that vibe.
You definitely have it with sports.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have it with your political things, do you?
Did you watch the debate the other night, the vice president?
Well, no. And I will tell you, I have to tell you a story though, because I want to, a couple things. I have comments, but I didn't watch it. But today, you know, I got on Facebook, and it went to my profile or feed or something. But every once in a while, it'll just pop up and it'll start showing me the other years' memories.
Memories, yeah.
And you know, a lot of times it's what I wrote that day, but then sometimes it's just something that showed up on my feed. And the one that showed up today was from a memory of 12 years ago that day, August 2nd, 12 years ago. And here's what I said. I put on Facebook, listen, I'll tell you what, I forgot, I was watching a baseball game and forgot to turn on the debate. And I would really like to know what you think of it. I don't want any propaganda, but what did I miss? What did you think of the debate? And that was exactly 12 years ago. And I literally was thinking about that. I missed the debate. Now I watched the next morning and got all the news stuff and comments and, you know, everybody preaching one way or the other.
Recaps, right.
Depending on what so I did hear about the debate, but it was so amazing. But here's the thing. 12 years ago, when we had this debate, I asked for people to give me opinions, and I got all of these wonderful analysis, pro and con, Republican and Democrat.
Who would that have been 12 years
That's
ago?
what I didn't know. Who was it? Who debated that night?
Was it Obama and McCain?
No. It was Obama and Romney.
Oh, wow.
I never would have thought that. And they were talking about that Romney was a better debater, and he was better prepared, and
Interesting.
you know, Barack had his you know, coolness, but he wasn't as well. You know, it's really back and forth analysis, and my, you know, reading it was amazing, because you can't read anything like that on Facebook now.
Right.
There is no such thing as an intelligent intercourse between two Republicans. And, you know, if you're for him or against him, you're so strong that it's just, you're not listening. Nobody's listening anymore. But that was 12 years ago, and it was remarkable. And of course, what I heard about the debate the other night was it wasn't interesting because it was civil.
Right.
There was no news there. So they didn't really spend a whole lot of time talking about anything because they were nice to each other.
Right.
It was unheard of. What is going on here?
Right.
And the whole idea of it being civil, but I remember 12 years ago, that was the norm.
That was the norm.
That was how you did. You actually argued.
Right. Anybody that tried to claim that either candidate was an existential threat to democracy was off the deep end.
Yeah, I mean, that just wasn't happening.
Right.
You were arguing the issues.
And now both sides are completely convinced the other side is an existential threat
Exactly.
to the future of our democracy
And that's
with
just-
all their hearts.
Yeah.
And both, you can find articulate people that make a pretty good case in both directions. Like, oh, well,
Yeah. It's true.
which maybe says a little bit less about the candidates, and not that that's not a whole way you could talk about it, but maybe we as a civilization are on some kind of cusp that that at an interesting crossroads or something. That
Yeah. Maybe we are. Maybe we're not.
exactly.
Yeah. Could be getting worse, and it could be making a stand. I mean, at some point, we've got to realize what we're doing to ourselves is we're just playing, we're hurting each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we are all connected, and we need to recognize that.
Right.
And that's both sides.
Mm-hmm.
That's everybody.
Yeah.
We need to all be innocent again together.
Amen.
Like when you were growing up, like would people put out like placards in their front yard for presidential or anything like
Sure.
that?
And you didn't feel like you were going to get your house burned down if
Right.
you put the wrong one up in your neighborhood. You know, it was just your opinion.
Right.
And everybody had their opinion, and you
Now
voted.
we underestimate how tumultuous the times have been in the past, though, too, because there was a lot of craziness all along the way.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about
So
that.
in so many ways, you had from the turn of the century, where I mean, even like some of the stuff we're arguing about now is 100 years old. Whether you're talking
Sure.
about the threat of communism and infiltrators and anarchists, like the two that were put to death for being communist anarchists or whatever in the 20s, to like the Red Scare of the 50s when they were blacklisting Hollywood actors because they were
Oh,
a threat to our existential threat to our democracy. The 60s were insane.
Yeah,
People were getting assassinated right and left,
right.
and towns were all on fire, and I mean, there's been a lot of very familiar to today times in our past as well. So it's not
Yeah, it wasn't all hunky dory
Right.
then either. But, I think the difference is we just, in terms of the media, we know about it more. We're more in tune with the Google world and the cell phone world, and you know, it doesn't mean that we know the truth, but we're just getting more visions of more things that can affect us that way. I mean, if you don't watch the news, and well, it depends on what news you watch as to what reality you're choosing to live in a lot of times. And that didn't used to be that way.
right. You just watch the nightly news.
That's in the old days. That's all. Yeah, you know, I don't. You know, like I have that Morning Joe. Well, it's just as biased as Fox. It's just the other way. Am I wrong? I don't like listening to either one of them because they're preaching.
Right.
They're preaching their version of it too much.
How do you get your news?
Mostly the internet. just
With like
various
social media
sites.
kind of stuff?
Well, at work we have one of those. Click on that thing that just brings up every publication in the world. And it's, Trump, whatever. You just read the headlines. You can click on it and read it.
I just watched Dan Rather reruns. That's the best news you're gonna get.
Oh, innocent again.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's where I'm heading. I'm going to just show all Walter Cronkite reruns.
That I bet that would be a good channel. They should come out with that. Just
Yeah.
old news is good news.
Old
or-
news.
Old news.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I think it'd be a fun experiment to, I mean, as bad as deep fakes are, but could you, like, how would we react if Dan Rather was giving us the news today? the way that we get the news today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, would it feel better coming from Dan or Walter?
I think so. Unless you didn't know them, you know, if you grew up with them, that's partly what it is.
What was the scandal Dan Rather got taken out for?
Oh, come on.
I don't remember.
Because he got fired. He lost his job because of, I feel like it was something with Bush. But
I don't remember.
Me neither.
Are we there?
we're there.
I was
We did it
gonna
again.
Talking about old news, this made me laugh. I don't know why it made me laugh, but last time I saw Heemeyer, they're like mostly an instrument. Well, they do a lot of instrumental stuff, and I just had these lyrics going through my head, just making them up. And you know the NWA song "F the Police."
Mm-hmm.
So for some reason, I was just singing something about John F. Kennedy, and then for some reason it just cracked me up for them to sing John F. Kennedy. He said "F the police," and I'm thinking, man, you don't really think of Kennedy saying anything mean, but you think if anybody really has a reason to say "F the police," it could be him. Like, where the fuck were they not guarding me better, you know? Mr. Kennedy, what do you say? "F the police." That's like security. But I didn't get up there and get to tell him to sing that.
I need to say that I would like to wish Wendy Gray a happy birthday.
Oh, was it her birthday?
Oh,
Happy
Wendy.
birthday, Wendy.
Yes, I wanted everybody to know that.
Oh, and Miss Wendy and my brother wanted me to tell you that tomorrow is Buster Keaton's 129th birthday.
Wow.
That's my brother's favorite actor, director,
Buster
producer,
Keaton.
whatever. it
Buster
is.
Keaton.
Yeah.
Huh.
We used to, when he was at VCU, we would have to go down to get the old, it's like the movies on a reel. You know, we'd load those up down there in the VCU basement and watch
Wow.
Buster Keaton movies.
He was all silent movies.
Mhm.
It'd be funny, like if they're huge stars in silent movies, and then they came out with the talkies, and their voice was stupid.
Yeah, but supposedly that
And they're
happened to
like-
a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, hi. Like, oh God, that's what you sound like. Your career's over. Leaving song time. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
You want to put that back before you?
It's gotta go any other way.
We won't help with that.
In the casino, I wasn't gambling. I knew I was going to lose. I walked forever, but I wasn't rambling. I was just trying on some shoes. I met a teller, she told me a fortune. She knew I might not have any. 2.22's exactly what I was down to. $2, 2 dimes, 2 pennies. Thank you, life, for the light I'm given. Thank you, light, for the life I'm living. Now I got my soda pop, I got my lighter, I got my pink bubble gum. Got a hot mama be lying beside her when all is said and done. Can't wait to get there. First I gotta go too far. It's hard work playing the fool. I know a shortcut, but it's through the graveyard. Thank God the moon is full. Thank you, life, for the light I'm given. Thank you, light, for the life I'm living. place you're looking, it might be right before your eyes. Give it a try, but don't try too hard. You might become addicted to your size. Friends might avoid you, and strangers might stare. Well, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm just telling you, it gets weird out there. Thank you, life, for the light I'm given. Thank you, life, for the life I'm living. Thank you, life, for the light I'm given. Thank you, life, for the life I'm living.
Yay.
Thank you all so
Yo.
much. See you next
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Too good.
That was awesome.
That was fun.
Get ready to vote.
Covered a lot of ground there. Now, was Vance wearing eyeliner or not? Did you see any of that footage?
I didn't.
Is that what's going on?
Yeah, what did you think of it?
It was boring. I have a lot of issues with it, just the way. I mean, it was interesting to see the civilities. The chess playing. I thought there was some good chess playing going on there, and just every little aspect of it. The moderators drove me a little crazy. Like at one point, they actually started to debate, and they had to stop that because we didn't want this thing to devolve into a debate. Like to actually debate a topic, to drill
what
down
it's supposed to be.
beneath the surface just a little bit. Like the way it has to stay on the surface in quips is so strange to me, as opposed to letting them actually debate a topic for a couple of minutes. Like it's just very intellectually unsatisfying, the whole format, the way they make it all happen. You get 30 seconds to do your prepared quip, and
Why don't they do them like old high school debates? Like you could have your Republican team, or they don't even have to be the people that are running. Just what is your party's?
it would be fun to see an
presentation?
actual debate.
Yeah, done by high school rules. The
right.
college debate rules or whatever.
I wonder if that's still a thing.
Lehigh had debate team, didn't they?
Oh yeah, we still have debates.
Is it all text now, or do they do it? Person.